Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Benighted, Ekbom, out April 12th on Season of Mist. The album has 12 tracks, 37 minutes in length, and this is the band's 10th full-length studio album. They are a French brutal death metal grindcore band. Now before we get into this record, I have to tell you a little bit about the album, or a little bit about the concept of the album, and that concept is well represented in the title of the record, Ekbom, which is a psychological condition that makes you think your body is infested with invisible bugs. Now, I don't know how that feels like. I don't think anybody knows exactly what that experience is like, but listening to this record, listening to these songs, the vocals, the sound, everything about this album definitely makes your skin crawl. So this record is a very good representation, or at least gives you a very good idea of what that psychological illness is all about. Now, once you move beyond that concept, beyond that theme, and you actually get into the record, the album is very compact, as you would expect from 12 songs, 37 minutes in length. Just because it's compact, it doesn't mean that the songs kind of blend into one another and they don't have unique characteristics. This is not an album that is just brutal for the sake of being brutal. They still find ways of creating individual fingerprints, individual, elements that allow each track to resonate with the listener in a different way without taking anything away from that constant brutality that it is the trademark of the band and that is part of their sound and part of their existence. So it's an album that gives you this sense of being compact, that everything being squeezed in, but at the same time you're still able to tell all the different ebbs and flows that are happening from track to track across 12 songs. And those elements allow the sound on this record to be brutal, to be dense, but still be very dynamic. And I think that comes down to definitely the drums and guitars, but also the production behind this album. Normally when I refer to a record as being dense, the sound is so thick, there's just so much in the sound that the edges of one element versus the other become quite blurry, and it's hard to tell where one ends and where the other one starts. It's not the case here. The brutality, sound, and overall volume of this record, and even density of sound and volume, does not give you that perspective. You're still able to see the forest from the trees. The guitars on this record have the ability to move a little bit further back and be slightly heavier, slightly thicker, chugging along with the drum sound in order for you to feel the overall brutality of the record, that almost like this avalanche is coming at you at different speeds, but it's coming at you, and you feel that on every single song. But the guitars are also able to move away from that and be more driven, more techy, more melodic, more sinister. There's a lot of sinister elements and atmospheric elements oozing out of the guitar sound throughout this entire record. And the ability that the guitars have to be super mobile. The guitars on this album are very Jekyll and Hyde. They don't have like a signature approach from the first to the last song. They have this ability to move back, pack in with the drums, move away from the drums, and be a little bit more diverse, be a little bit more fluid, cut through a little bit better, and add this aura, this sinister aura that the album really carries it well from first to last song. So there's a lot of movement in the guitars, and you see that in terms of what they're doing, but you also see that in terms of what they're offering. And the drums, while at first glance appear to be more stagnant, they appear to be more static in one place, like not moving, and just be this focus of heaviness and brutality, because I honestly felt like the drums were the start and the end point of where the heaviness of this album really ignites itself and really comes from. The drums also have quite a bit of movement, but it's not up and down, and it's not separating itself. It's a movement that's more lateral. The drums on this record create this massive footprint for the songs, obviously adding the brutality, obviously adding the heaviness, but when you listen to this record, you still feel like there is movement within the drum sound. It's a movement that is a little bit more lateral, like I said, and it's a movement that also pushes itself forward, and then when it pushes itself forward, it separates the guitars and almost slingshots the guitars even more into the forefront, which allows the album to be really stretched out at times. This is a record that compresses and it stretches depending on where you are and depending on the impact that the drums are giving to that guitar sound up front. So for an album that feels very dense because of all the brutality, because of all the heaviness, it's still really well defined, and the production behind it helps being that defined and that transparent to the listener. Now, as far as the vocals are concerned, Julian is a beast. He's a beast, and he delivers an insane range as you would expect from him. When you listen to this record, I'm sure you'll find the same thing as I did, is that he's able to create so many different experiences with his voice. It's almost like there's 10 different singers on the record. He has this incredible ability to execute tracks differently, use his range, and then bring different elements of his voice in order to pair up with the songs, with the lyrics, with the moment within the record, to better describe or to better make you understand where you are within the experience. He's a great singer for a band that has this sort of sound because he's able to add a lot more layers to the performance and a lot more layers to the music and to how these songs come together. I also found that on this record, perhaps one of the things that changed the most from the previous album is that his vocals, when it comes to choruses, the choruses on this album are a lot more hooky. And for a brutal death metal band, for a grindcore band, that's not necessarily something that comes natural or that it's easy to spot. But I felt like this album had a little bit more of an emphasis on the chorus being a little bit extra hooky, a little bit more memorable, and his vocal performance helped define those moments, which allows the overall concept of the album, the whole overall idea of the album, to be perfectly represented in the sound and in the vocal performance. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, let's start off with Morgue. The drums are brutal, heavy, and the guitars really pack that sound in. And then at the same time, they're also allowed to blister themselves out of it. So they have this incredible movement, like I said, stretching out the tracks. There's a sinister sound when the song gets stretched out. That more melodic, sinister approach up to the guitars impacts the track in that sinister way, which when you consider the title of the song, Morgue, it creates that perfect feel and it creates that perfect experience that you would associate it with a morgue. It's a track that definitely makes your skin crawl, specifically when the guitars really detach themselves and really stretched out the overall song and the overall footprint of the song. Very dynamic vocally, as you would expect. The chorus stand out, one of those tracks that has a really hooky chorus, and the brutality of the song is not lost just because the chorus comes across a little bit more hooky and a little bit more impactful. I also enjoy the bass sound that comes right after the chorus. It's a great little bass line right after the chorus, and then the super heavy riff that follows. This song has a very well-defined pattern, but just because it has a pattern doesn't mean it feels repetitive. It's a great track, really memorable because it repeats itself, and really memorable because it has a great chorus. Next you have Ekbom. A great intro, amazing guitar sound, very lively. The guitars on this track are alive, and vocally, the best way to describe it, this track is unhinged. Now, the drums are brutal, as they are throughout the entire album. The guitar sound is a little bit more compact on this song. Still great guitar sound, but because it's a little bit more compact, it doesn't stretch out the song as much. You're able to digest it in a different way. You're able to see a few more of steady, heavy elements coming out of it, and it's a track that by nature doesn't become as sinister as Morgue is. The vocals, like I said, they're the ones, because of that unhinged nature behind them, they're the ones that are stretching out the song. So here's a track that has similar experiences as far as Morgue is concerned, but while in Morgue the guitars are the ones stretching out the track, on this one the vocals are the ones stretching out the song. Last but definitely not least, A Reason for Treason. Now this is your prototypical grindcore song because it has a great tempo, the drums and guitars sound phenomenal, really heavy, really chunky, with that hardcore underlying sound to it, just with the brutality on top, creating that grindcore experience. A track that has a great movement, great guitar sound behind it. There's an underlying bass sound that's extremely important. It doesn't really pop, but you can hear it in key moments, like very fainted, almost like a sound at the distance, but it's just enough that if you're paying attention to the song and you're really digesting it, when that bass kind of creeps up, It blends in so well with the guitars that it helps to create a certain underlining fuzz to certain moments of this track. And that fuzz is important because it doesn't slow down, but it changes the methodology of the song, and it reduces a little bit the intensity and movement that the track has, because this is as intense, as aggressive, as brutal as it gets. You don't really lose any of those elements. It's just coming at you in a more simplified way because it's a more straightforward song due to the nature of the sound and even the nature of the structure of the track itself. This is it, Benighted with Ekbom, out April 12th on Season of Mist. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.